All right, so taking a look at day 2 here, we are doing writing the equation of a line. So if you remember from Algebra 1, the most common equation of a line that you would have seen is y equals mx plus b. So this form of a line is called the slope-intercept form, where m, which is the number coefficient of the x term, okay, and b is the constant that's being added or subtracted to that on the end. All right, this is the y-intercept, meaning where the graph crosses the y-axis, and this is the slope, meaning the rise over the run. So if you look at our first two questions, right, we have what's called slope-intercept form to start with. So just the slope, which m, like slopes on a mountain, all right, is just 2/3, and our y-intercept, the b term, is 1. That's it, nice and easy. Now, the second one isn't in this form, but we can get it in this form. So what we would do is just distribute the -2. We would end up with y minus 3 equals -2x minus 6. And then we would just add this 3 to both sides. So move that 3 over, and we would get y equals -2x minus 3. So the slope is always the number that's attached to the x. So that's -2, not the x though, just the number. And the y-intercept would be -3. Now, this line that we started with is actually known as point slope form. This equation we started with here is actually called point slope form. So the difference between slope-intercept form is I need the slope and the y-intercept. The point slope form, I just need a point, right? Some point on the line. Let's make sure we spell that word correctly. Point, okay? And we need the slope of a line. So the slope is m, and the point is considered to be x1, y1. Now, when we did slope-intercept, right, the slope was m and the y-intercept was b. In both cases, this generic xy that you see in this equation and in this equation, okay, is just some unknown point on the line. That's the reason why we always leave it as x and y in the equation, is because if we want to know if a point is on the line, we can just plug it in and see if the equation is true. Now, the point slope form, right, starts by using the slope formula. Now, we usually do y2 minus y1, but if we just change this from y2 to just y, we could just call it y minus y1 and x minus x1. If we just cross multiply, okay, you're going to get this form right here. Y minus y1 equals m times quantity x minus x1. And I realized I wrote a 1 here instead of x1. But that is point slope form. This is where it comes from, the slope form cross multiplied. So in this format, okay, this is our slope, and this x1, y1 is our point. This is what we are going to be using a lot today, okay? So what we're going to do, all right, is use the slope of the line at any point on the line to create equations, all right? So if we look at point slope form, remember the slope is m and the point on the line is given the coordinates x1, y1. We're going to write our y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now, because there are negative signs here, okay, we have to remember that as you plug the number into the equation, it's actually going to change sign. So just be careful when you do this. So let's see how we're going to use this. If you look at page 7, all right, we're going to write our equations to lines. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write it in point slope form, and then we're going to use that and we're going to solve to get it in slope intercept form. So point slope form, remember, is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So we're really just going to distribute and add that over like last time. Okay, so we have our point. We have m. We have 8, which is x1, and -4 is y1. And then we're going to write our formula. Y minus y1 equals the slope m times x minus x1. We're going to plug in y minus a -4. So as we plug the -4 into the equation, it actually becomes a double negative. It becomes positive. Is equal to our slope, which is 2/3, and then x minus x1. And this is it. That's our formula. It's just y plus 4 equals 2/3 x minus 8. That is the answer to part A. Okay? Or sorry, part B. Actually, it's part A. Part B is to get it into slope-intercept form. So if we take y plus 4 equals 2/3 x minus 8, I'm just going to distribute this and then subtract that 4 over. That's it. So I get y plus 4 equals 2/3 x. And then this is going to be 16/3. And 16/3 is just 5.3 repeated. So if I subtract 4 from both sides, we're going to get y equals 2/3 x, and then minus 9.3 repeating. And that is the answer to part B. Okay, see if you can try and get point slope form for question number 2 here. Pause it, give it a shot. Okay, hopefully you remembered your formula, and then you just y minus -3, so it's really plus 3, equals our slope, which is -5, times x. Oh, you see what we did? We made a little blunder here. We plugged x1 for y1. We got to be careful that this is going to be y minus 6, and then x plus 3. Okay? And there is our solution. Now that's part A. Part B is going to be to distribute and solve. So y minus 6 equals, if we distribute, we're going to get minus 5x, and then minus 15, and then we'll add 6 to both sides to get rid of the 6 from this side, and we'll get y equals negative 5x minus 9. And there is our slope-intercept form. Okay? Now there's 3 different cases that they could ask you to do to find the equation of a line. The first one is nice and easy, which is find the slope and y-intercept. So, sorry, if they give you the slope and y-intercept, state the equation. Now, if they give you slope and y-intercept, 2 things. Number 1, the y-intercept of 6 means that the point 0, 6 is actually the point on the line. So we can do this 2 ways. We can use y equals mx plus b, since they give us m and b, and we can just state our solution, which is y equals negative 2/3 x plus 6. Or we could write ours in point slope form, which is y minus y1, which is 6, equals negative 2/3, and then x minus 0. Now the x minus 0 is going to go away, and then the plus 6 is going to bring us this back anyways. But technically both answers are acceptable in terms of a final answer if you had to state your own solution. Okay? All right, see if you can try out letter B real quick. Pause it, give it a chance. And hopefully you came up with one of these 2 answers, y equals negative 3x plus 4, or y, remember, minus 4, because remember it's the point 0, 4 equals negative 3x minus 0. All right, if we're going for part C, all right, pause and give this one a try. And hopefully you came up with either y equals 17 over 7x plus 125, or y minus 125 equals 17 over 7x minus 0. Because remember, this point is 0, 125. So that's our x1 and y1. All right, last one, kind of crazy numbers, but let's see if we can figure this one out. And we'll just put the slope-intercept form down here. So just take the m, plug it in for x. So negative 1,000, y equals 145,656 over 2,234x minus 6,583. This is just to show you it doesn't matter what they give you. You're just plugging it in for m and b. Okay, now when we do the next one, we're going to kind of stay away from this. We're not going to worry about this so much. And you can kind of fill these in for yourself. We'll kind of fill them in together real quick. So when you are doing this slope-intercept form, okay, or when we are solving for the equation of a line, it doesn't specifically say which to use. What we are going to do first, okay, is we are going to first use the point slope form. So plug the point and slope into point slope form. Now that's point slope form. And then if needed, okay, we're going to distribute and solve for y. If we need it in slope-intercept form, okay? And this would be y equals mx plus b form. That's our slope-intercept form. So if we started with the point negative 6, 3, or 6, negative 3, we would do y minus y1. So the y1 is negative, so it's going to change signs and become y plus 3 equals the slope. Now this technically should be negative 4, so a little fix there. Negative 4 times x, and then we change the sign, minus 6. We can then distribute the negative 4 and add the 3 over, and we should get y equals negative 4x plus 24 minus 3 gives us the final answer of y equals negative 4x plus 21. So if we try these few examples here at the end, all right, write an equation of a line passing through the point and having a slope. Remember, this is our x1, y1, and there's our slope. So we're just going to do y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. So it's y minus 4, change the sign, equals the slope, 5 over 2, times x minus, we change our sign, 3, to make it negative 3. That's it, we're done. We don't have to really do anything else. If you wanted to distribute through, you could. So we would get y minus 4 equals 5 over 2x, and then 15 over 2 is going to be negative 7.5, and then we'll add 4 to both sides. And this is only if you needed to get it into slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b form, would we have to do this. And then we're going to get y equals 5 over 2x, and then it's going to be minus 3.5. Okay, so either one of these answers is acceptable, but it depends on if it's multiple choice. It could be ask you for either form. Okay, same thing with the next one. So x1, y1, we also have our y-intercept. Now this is a little bit different because the y-intercept is b. So notice that we don't have that, okay? But we know that this point is technically the point 0, negative 6. So the first thing we're going to really need to do is get the slope, okay? Now, if we get the slope, we're going to use our slope formula. So that's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And if you had graph paper or a scrap graph, you could graph the points and just count the rise over run. This is going to be y2, so negative 6 minus 6, which is negative 12, over 0 minus 4, which is negative 4. And so we get a slope of 3. So now we're going to pick the point. We got our slope. And so now we're going to do y minus y1. So y minus the y coordinate is 6 equals the slope, which is 3, times x minus x1, which is just x minus 4. And that's it. That's as far as we have to go. That's technically a correct answer. We could distribute and solve if we needed to. If you did distribute and add, you would end up with y equals 3x. This would be minus 12, but plus 6. So we get minus 6 as our y-intercept. Because it's minus 12, we would then add 6 to both sides, and we would get 3x minus 6 as a final answer. So that's just all you'd have to do to go from there to there. All right, and the last one here, we already have the slope. We already have the point. Remember, x1, y1, and m. So now we're just going to plug in. So if you remember the equation, we don't technically have to write it over and over. We would just write, I just have to do that so I can get my pen back. Y minus y1, so y1 is 3, equals the slope, which is 2, times x minus y1. But remember, changing the sign, so it's just plus 5. That's it. If we needed to distribute, we would get y minus 3 equals 2x plus 10. And then we would add 3 to both sides to get an answer of y equals 2x plus 13. But remember, either of these equations are acceptable, so you could have stopped as soon as you wrote that down. All right, pause and fill in the notes here for yourself. Remember, we're going to kind of skip this first version, and we're going to do this. So just a point of order, the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to do this first. We're going to find that slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this is actually what we're going to do first. We're going to kind of ignore this stuff over here. All right, is get the slope, and then you're going to plug that and one of the points, doesn't matter which one, into our equation. So pause it, fill in those notes. Okay, so if we use what we know and answer this question below here, what we're going to have to solve here, okay, is we have to remember that we're given 2 points. The first one we can think about is x1, y1, and the second one is x2, y2. So our slope formula would be y2 minus y1, rise over run, and x2 minus x1. So y2, second point y-coordinate is 6. First point y-coordinate is 2. Second point x-coordinate minus first point x-coordinate. We have a double negative here, so remember we're adding, and we're going to get 4 over 4, which is 1. Now, we're going to take our point slope form, okay, and we're going to plug in. So y minus y1, well, that's just y, and y1 is 2, so minus 2 equals that slope, which we said was 1, times x minus x1, and in this case, it's x minus -3. Remember to change that sign, and x plus 3. And that's as far as we really have to go. Okay, we could distribute and solve. If you did, you should get y equals x plus 5. You can try that one on your own to see how we get there. All right. And if we go down to the next page for number 2, you're going to see that it's kind of the same thing here. Okay. We take our 2 points, x1, y1, x2, y2. We're going to plug in, so it's going to be 6 minus -3, which is 9. 4 minus 2 is 2. There goes our slope in the formula. And then we're going to take our points and plug them in. So remember to change the sign of the y's. And then if we have to, we can distribute and end up with y equals 9/2x minus 12. All right. That's it for today. Hopefully that helps make sense. And then if you have any questions, let me know. And we're doing parallel perpendicular lines tomorrow.